All right. See people trickling in. So we're going to give a few minutes, let everyone kind of join us. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We'll get to intros in a little bit, but we'll let people kind of join in and get settled in before we start.
All right, let's get moving then. You guys have waited long enough. Really appreciate your patience, folks. So my name is Christina Baker. I am the digital strategy lead here at SilverTech, and this rock star with me is Jonathan Reed. Jonathan, you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, Jonathan Reed, Sitefinity solutions engineer. Love the product, been working with it for over 11 years, and obviously well enjoy working with SilverTech for the past 6 years since I've been here at Progress.
Awesome. But me especially, right, Jonathan? You know it. Great. Okay, let's talk through today. We've got a lot on the dock today. We got our personalization. We're going to be talking about why should we personalize, what the strategy looks like there, implementation with personalization, and then we're going to run through a couple capabilities of the tool of Insight, which is awesome. We love Insight. It's a fantastic tool, fantastic product from our friends over at Sitefinity. So we're going to go through that, and then Jonathan's going to do a demo for us so you can see what it looks like within the tool, and then we'll talk through a little bit of what does an engagement with SilverTech look like. So let's start out with a quick poll. So let's take a look at, is personalization a priority for you all? And I need to remember how to go ahead and share a poll. So let's talk about whether or not I'll be able to get that. But let's talk through, are you thinking of personalizing this year? Is that something that your organization has been working on? Perfect. If you want to drop your vote in that poll, would love to see.
You want me to vote too, right?
Oh, definitely. No, sorry, hosts and panelists can't vote. We don't count.
I know.
Data. Data.
Always taking the fun out of it.
All right. Awesome.
Can we play the Jeopardy music? You got that queued up too?
No. I saw the poll come through. Hopefully we were able to go ahead and share that. Not seeing any of the results coming through, unfortunately. So I think we'll have to kind of just keep rolling today. Zoom is not loving us. It's a bummer, but we're going to keep the show going. So I have heard, I've worked with a ton of institutions. Personalization does tend to be on the docket, but it's usually one that sometimes gets pushed down to the bottom. So a lot of the folks that we have talked to who wanted to do personalization in 2023 maybe didn't get to it and are looking to do it in next year. So I think that it's an incredibly interesting part of our strategy that we don't want to lose sight of. And the reason for that is that what we have been seeing is a lot of research and data coming out about the importance of personalization driving better customer outcomes. So tailoring the right offering to your prospect at the right time really is invaluable. And what we're seeing is the folks that are able to do this and do it well have some great data behind the efficacy of the efforts. So 15% sales conversion, 20% increase in customer satisfaction, real push in brand loyalty. What we find is that companies that enact a personalized customer experience really relish well with the benefits of brand loyalty. The data shows that our customers are more willing to engage with us because we have this established trust, right? Like we start to convey to them that we understand them. We understand their needs. We understand their wants. We understand where they're at in their journey. And they really start to see their priorities reflected back to them. And what that does is build trust with the brand. And then what we find, which is, I think, even more interesting, is that once we have that established trust, they're more willing to share feedback with us. The data shows that we will, as we collect data from our customer base, if we use it well and in a way that is purposeful and meaningful to our customers, they're more willing to share additional data with us. So that's something that I think is really interesting that we should continue to explore as people are really enjoying the benefits of a personalized customer experience. All right, so let's try this poll thing again, and maybe
I was gonna say we got a 71% yes on the last round. So yeah,
I love that. I know.
Good deal.
That's really awesome. Yeah, I think that's great. So what is your biggest barrier to implementing it? So we have 71% have it on the docket. Why haven't we done it yet? Tools, is it tools? MarTech stack, we don't have enough tools to do personalization. Is it content? This is one I hear pretty consistently. We don't have a content team. How are we going to write personalized content? How do we know what content we need to write? Is it data collection? We're not collecting enough data to come up with a strategy of personalization, or is it that strategy piece of it? We have the data, we think we've got the right tools, we maybe have the content, but we just aren't sure about the strategy. Would love to hear your thoughts on that. So drop your vote there.
And hopefully, spoiler alert, during the demo, we can show how easy it is with the particular Sitefinity platform. But again, spoiler alert on that one.
I love that. Perfect. Excellent. All right, so what do we have for some stats there? Unfortunately, the screen is not showing me stats. Looks like strategy and tools are kind of our two biggest offenders there. Totally makes sense. And I think this is where, having a good relationship with your digital partner can really help you, because I know I work a lot with my clients to identify those tools. If we don't have the right tools, or maybe you have a lot of tools and you just aren't making the most of them, and you could use a little guidance there. That's something I get really passionate about, because I like to make the most of investments, right? We've already got tools. Let's use them as much the best of our ability. Perfect. Okay. So let's move along. So what goes into a personalization strategy? I know strategy was high on that list. What do we need to do to get that strategy going? Really what we need to look at is a couple different things. We want to look at identifying, first of all, who our target audiences are. What are we looking to do here? What are we looking to personalize for? We're not doing it just for fun. We've got to have, a goal in mind and an ROI attached, right? So what are those segments look like? What are our target audiences? And then we want to look through, what data do we have to support those target audiences? So what do we know about their preferences? What do we know about their behavior? Do they have preferred platforms that they like to engage on? Do they have specific product interests? Just those overall patterns can tell us a lot about where folks like to engage, where they spend their time. So that way we can better tailor our efforts to meet them where they're already at, right? That's ultimately what we always want to do as marketers, is go to our audience. We can't rely on them to come to us. We want to meet them where they're at. And this type of data can really help us suss out, where are people engaging and what are they doing once they get there. We also want to tie it to a business goal. What are our business goals? Are we looking to improve customer care? So maybe we want to personalize to improve our customer satisfaction metrics and KPIs. Are we looking to shorten the sales cycle? And we want to have better understanding of where folks are in the funnel and be able to target content to them based on where they are at in the funnel to try to push that conversion faster. That's a great goal. Maybe we have goals around specific product lines. Maybe we've launched a new product and we want to make sure that we're getting some awareness out there and getting some traction on this product. Those are all the types of identifiers and pieces of a personalization strategy that I would challenge you to start to think through when you think about bringing personalization to your site. It could even be, I've had clients who've used personalization strategy for even hiring efforts. We want specific job candidates. So we're looking to hire these, specific types of candidates. So we're going to personalize the website, to interest them when they come to visit us. All right. So what goes into a personalization strategy? We have a kind of an understanding of who we want to target, what we want to target them with. Now we need to look through and think through, what are the rules of this? How are we going to structure this within the tool? What does that conversion look like? Is it going to be an e-com play and it's a strict buy now? Is it in that example I gave of a career candidate? Is it an apply now? Maybe if you're in higher ed, for instance, maybe it's to sign up for a tour of the campus, and we consider that to be a conversion because now we've got a personal relationship we can continue to build on. Those are the types of things we would want to think about when we think about conversion actions. And I always recommend too that they are broad-based and narrow. Conversions can mean a lot of things. We have different types of conversions. It doesn't necessarily have to be a one-to-one match with a revenue goal. We can put the more people we put into the funnel and we can identify, the better data we get of what our percent to close is, or what type of traffic we need to be driving in order to make our business goals come to life. Then we'll look through point values and content areas for personalization, and then we'll talk through some of what does that content creation look like. So let's get a real world example here. Here we have a banking client. We're going to call this probably SilverTech Bank, right? And we have a loan applicant. She's going to be a first-time mortgage applicant. We want to target our mortgage segment. We found, maybe our mortgage team has been, looking for leads lately, and some of the leads have kind of slowed down, and we want to start to build up that business again. So we have identified our target segment as our first-time home buyer. We have identified what we are looking to do. We're looking to get more traction on our beginning a loan application. Again, this is an example of a more looser conversion. It's a little bit more high. We just want to get them to click to do the application, so we can start to work through that data of how much demand we need to drive in order to get the type of closed application metrics we're looking for.
How'd you get all the data?
How do we get all the data? That's a fantastic question. We can actually get all that data within Insight. Once we start to roll, spin up some of these, we have the tool operating in conjunction with our CMS. We can start pulling the data out of the tool to even at a more basic level. Let's collect some data for a little while, and then we go to personalization. So we can use it even at its most basic level, just to collect that data, so that even at the outset, we can have better data going into our personalization strategy. If we don't have Insight running currently on our CMS, we can use some other types of data collectors like GA4 and things like that, Hotjar, any other type of data metrics, maybe from our online banking as well. But overall, Insight would definitely give us the data we would need in order to set this up. So from here, you can see we need to set up some rules. How are we going to find these people? That's one of the questions I get all the time. Well, how do we know, if this person is our profile, if this person is this persona that we're looking to sell to? And what way we're going to know is through their behavior on the site with us. And that's what the rules are about. The rules are saying, if you do this and you do that, we can reasonably assume that you are within this bucket in this segment, this customer segment, and this bucket of customers that we're looking to target. So here you can see an example of what that rule structure might look like. We pick a point threshold, totally arbitrary. I like 50. I don't know why. But you can pick any number you want. But what we really want to look at is structuring that point to make sure that we're casting a wide enough net to capture these people and really be able to identify them and sort of sift them out of our generic user base. So for instance, we can say if this user arrives on site via a mortgage campaign landing page, automatically we're going to say they're interested in mortgage and we want to personalize for them, because we can really reasonably assume that they have an interest in this. This is how they made their entry point to the website. Things like expanding frequently asked questions. If we see folks are, expanding one or two, kind of poking around, that can really make them raise their hand. There's an interest here. How can we personalize for them? And then we also have to think through from a strategic perspective, how often are we going to count this? Once or every time they do it? If we counts an action once, that's saying you complete this action once, we're assigning you these points. And even if you in the same session come back and complete the action again, we're not going to give you any more points. We're going to say you're good, that's it. Something like, for instance, that FAQ example I just gave, here you can see the instance says each. So this is each time they open one of those FAQ accordions on the page, we're going to give them 20 points. And where this kind of comes from, the sort of thinking behind it, is through looking through our analytics. Do we notice trends like, people will hit 1-2 pages and then they'll convert? Or we notice if they open 2 FAQs, then we see them go to this next step in the process, or maybe they open 3. And we use that data to help us structure this approach to make sure that we're going to be capturing as many as we can. Now, something that's really interesting, and you may have noticed already, further down the page, we have negative points. And this is really key. And this is where folks sometimes don't capture the intent here. We really want to include negative points with any type of rule structuring that we do. This is key, because what we could find is a user could land on the site, be poking all around that mortgage section and then go apply for a job. Perhaps they want to be a loan officer and they just need to familiarize themselves with the product because they're preparing for an interview. So that's the kind of thing we want to like, okay, now this person is not interested in getting a mortgage with us and we don't need to personalize for them. So we want to deduct points. So every time that, I've been on the site a little bit, I'm poking around at different mortgage pages, and then I visit a careers page, now my points will be reset because now we're saying, well, wait a second, this is actually not this person's interest. Similar idea with the business section. It could be that they're, looking at different mortgage options and they're not, they're trying to find commercial loans. So maybe they're just lost or something else. They visit a business page, maybe we want to reset them back down to 0 because we find that they're not actually interested in that experience. Now we talk through, okay, so we have devised our strategy on how we're going to score these people, how we're going to identify them out of our broad base of users. Now we look at what can we personalize and what areas should we be personalizing. So here you'll see different content areas. So a homepage hero banner. So now someone has visited our site, they've identified themselves as having this interest. When they come back to the site, they're going to see a personalized version of that homepage hero banner that's going to speak to mortgage where it maybe was speaking to savings before. We can personalize things like news releases. Maybe we'll show, instead of showing our most recent news in that area, we'll show items tagged with mortgage or home buying, maybe some testimonials, something like that, that will really resonate with that user group. This is really to help you think through what are those content areas we can personalize and what is that content type that we'll need to go ahead and fuel that personalization. So this is that content piece. And we can really look at, do we have this content already? Maybe we have this content already and we have some really high performing content. We just need to put it in front of the right person at the right time. Or maybe we need to create additional content. So that's another thing we can start to look at, is getting a list of, okay, we need some new content creation in order to continue with this effort. So how can we start to source some of that? All right, so let's talk through some of the capabilities of the tools. I'm hoping everyone's following along so far. I think, it's pretty straightforward when we start thinking about that strategically. What we're really looking to do is get that base going, start small, and really optimize it over time as we continue to see. And I'll show you later on in this deck, you'll see how we can evaluate how our rules are really performing within the tool. So this is a great slide that gives you really kind of a comprehensive overview of the different capabilities within the tool. So you can see there's a number of data and analytics information that you can see. This is personally one of my favorite parts of the tool. I have not found a tool yet that can show you the customer journey so clearly. And this is something that I hear feedback from my clients all the time. Like, we have gaps in our data collection. We don't really know where they go next, and this is really fantastic at allowing you to follow that customer journey, to see where they interacted and the actions that they took. It's also fantastic for audience analysis, really looking at how people are engaging in the site, what content they're engaging with, what that performance of that content is. And we're going to see some really cool things around uplift and all sorts of other touch point analysis later on. You're going to really love that. And then finally, it helps us fuel that personalization and targeting. So it really works with the CMS in order to serve up that content at the right place and the right time. All right, so here's those personas. So here you can see our loan applicant, Leanna, is back. And this will kind of give you, this is a little bit of a screenshot from within the dashboard of the tool, so that you can see, how are my personas performing? What % of all visitors is falling into this bucket? And this gives us a nice metric to understand, do we think we're capturing enough, or do we need to maybe loosen some of those rules and go back to the drawing board? Or maybe we're finding we're not getting a lot of, success. And so maybe we need to tighten up some of those rules because we're maybe not identifying these people as clearly as we thought we were. Typically, I would say we really only, at the outset, I would recommend only personalizing for 1 to 2 personas to start. Something that I hear consistently is, it's just really overwhelming and we want to do it, but there's so much to do and we don't really know where to start. And I'm a big believer in just starting where you are and using what you have, right? Just like my favorite quote goes. So just look to 1 to 2 personas, just get it going and see what the data comes back as. Once we have better data, we can make better decisions. And none of this is written in stone. Worst case scenario, somebody sees a mortgage hero banner when they wanted a savings account. That's okay. We're all right here. So I always encourage folks, like, let's just start small. Let's test some things. Let's figure out how your specific audience responds. And then we can scale it up to additional personas and additional segments we're looking to target. So when we come to creating content for these folks, we really think about, where we can use our tagging structure. How can we pull this content? How can we use our existing content? I am never one that's going to tell you need to rewrite all your content. I don't think that that's manageable or feasible for most marketing teams. So I'm always on the band of, hey, what can we use that we already have? Do we need to maybe just polish it up a little bit and maybe make it a little more SEO friendly, a little more user friendly? So how can we do that and use what we've got? So we can rely on tagging, our current tagging structure. We can manually select that existing content. We can understand the efficacy of each of those existing pieces of content. So we would take a look at what are some of our most trafficked pages? Where are people going on that page? What are they engaging with? And that can really help us, fuel that personalization strategy, thinking through maybe we have the right content, but it's just too far down the content tree. It's too deep in the site and we're not getting enough eyes on it. Personalization can help revitalize some of those content pieces. Let's take a look at some data points. So the very first thing we have to do after we set up our personas is take a look at conversion. So what is the conversion going to look like? So to my earlier point, we want to have a number of different types of conversion. Something very specific is great. Maybe we do something a little bit looser just because our goal is not necessarily to drive revenue at this point. Our goal is data collection at this point. So something like this, which is, visiting and apply to a mortgage page, would be a great indicator of collecting some more specific data for us that then we can use to fuel some of our demand gen efforts. Here you'll see content evaluation, and Insight calls these touch points. And touch points are really any digital asset or specific interaction that you want to track. So it could be a blog post, it could be a news listing, it could be a calculator, something like that. Why do we want to track these things? For us, it's really about, again, collecting the right data to understand what people are actually interacting with. And it really helps us uncover our interests of our audiences, and additionally opportunities for cross-selling. So this is kind of a little snapshot from our one of the touch points on our mortgage page. What you can see, obviously, our first-time mortgage applicant is very interested in this content. Makes sense. It's mortgage-based. But what you can see also is that our money planning Matt, which is actually our new account opening persona, is also very interested in this content. So what does that tell us? Like, that was kind of surprising to see the level of engagement we were getting from those folks. It could tell us a couple things. It could tell us that maybe we need a little bit more specific rules around our mortgage persona. I would say no. I think in this instance, we're good there. For me, what this is telling us is that we have an opportunity for cross-selling here. We've got a first-time account opener who has shown a lot of interest in mortgage, maybe doesn't know about it. Maybe they're even, a few years out from buying a house, but we can start drip campaigns. We can start nurturing campaigns because they've shown a little interest in this. How can we continue to grow with this customer and get deeper into that? And I think that what is really great about this is understanding, evaluating that ROI. Something that I've heard a lot of folks talk about is, struggling with evaluating ROI. And I'm kind of curious, what are the marketing struggles that you're really kind of struggling with right now? I would love to throw a poll question up on that one, because I think that I hear a lot of different things. But I will say, again, utilization of tools, one I hear pretty consistently. Road mapping, that's one I hear a lot too. Like, we have a lot of great ideas, but we just don't know when to do them all or how to roll it out and put them all together. What are those dependencies, things like that. I've worked with a lot of clients on that effort. Data collection is usually a big one, like I mentioned before. having those sort of blind spots, that can really hinder you, and also makes it more difficult to prove the ROI of your strategy, right? And that's something that, I think Insight is really great at, is helping you improve that ROI. And then digital marketing and paid media, that's another one. I mean, that's a whole other animal, right? Like, you can just do that, and that's a full-time job. Perfect. Looks like a lot of folks are struggling with road mapping. Not surprising. There is so much technology out there, and you can't know it all. You just can't. I mean, none of us can, right? We have to gather a lot of data, realize what sort of our internal appetite for that is, and where our skill set is at. And that's where leaning on a digital partner like a SilverTech can really help you, because we can help you sort through, how do you get from A to B? And if you're looking to get to A to B and it's going to take you 5 years, how do we continue to evolve and really innovate on that to make sure that every year we're revisiting, we're taking into account the latest tools and technologies to make you successful? Okay. So this is probably one of my favorite pieces of Insight, and that's uplift. And uplift is a fantastic metric, just like we were talking about just a few minutes ago around marketing ROI. How do I prove the ROI? How do I get data into what I'm creating to show my leadership team this is valuable? Uplift is a really great metric for that. Uplift shows you how many times the conversion rate for visitors who hit that touch point is higher or lower. So what we're saying is, in this example, users who visited any page under that mortgage section is 45 times more likely to convert at that visit apply for mortgage page versus all users. Now that seems like a no-brainer, but tying that number to it, that makes it very real, right? Because now we've got an opportunity to say, hey, if we drive more traffic to these right pages, and we know they're 45 times more likely to convert, that can impact our revenue in this way. And that's what we're looking to do here. This is what the best part of Insight is. It helps you build that story. So let's take a look a little deeper into that and evaluate uplift. So this chart is going to show you those auto-discovered touch points that sort through the conversion rate uplift. And I don't know the magic of it. Jonathan can probably talk to, the machine learning that happens in the background that creates this great set for us. But I think it's just really great for us on this call, all the non-nerds, no offense. This is really looking at, is there a touch point that performs exceptionally well? And then how can we fold that into our personalization strategy? So you may be thinking like, hey, I've got this, amazing customer story, and I think it's fantastic. But the touch point evaluation is kind of showing it's not really playing great. You may see here, like, what, actually, maybe it's the calculator page that is having a real impact on that conversion. Now we know when we go to personalize, hey, let's put a call to action to that calculator page on the homepage that we're personalizing for these people, because we know it has an impact and we can show that it's going to impact our applications.
And Christina, in some of our more recent reports, we can even show you which interactions happened before and after this particular touch point. So that way you can get even deeper knowledge on what are my visitors, customers, users doing before they get to this touch point, which we as a team have identified as an impactful, line of business, right? Or step in the process. What are they doing before? What are they doing after? Am I doing all the right things in my content strategy to fulfill that? So
perfect. I love it. Yeah, and I think that's what's so great. And again, that speaks to that holistic customer journey that you can see with the tool.
Yep.
And why that's so awesome. And I am going through this so quickly, but guys, don't worry. There's a recording that's going to come your way. So you'll be able to, listen to me while you drink your cup of coffee on Sunday morning. No one's going to do that, but that's okay. Awesome. So let's talk about lead scoring. So this one is a little bit different. One of the common questions that I get is, are the rules for personas the same as lead scoring? And the answer is no. And the reason for that is that the rules for personas, the goal of that is to identify these people out of our broad user base, identify their interest so that we can tailor content for them. Lead scoring really is more around about how hot to buy is that person. Are they at that top of the funnel? Are they just researching, learning? Are they mid funnel? Maybe next step. Are they really ready to convert? And this is something that as you continue to build, this is not something that I honestly would recommend you start out with. I think this is something that you collect data for a little while and then you can build a strategy around. Additionally, you can bring in extra data. If you have CRM like Salesforce, HubSpot, and you want to connect to that, there are APIs available, I believe, Jonathan, right? That
Yeah, I
you
mean,
pull in.
definitely we can do via API, CSV upload for data. And what's also kind of beneficial about conversions, touch points, lead scoring, and personification is that they're retroactive. So
Yeah.
for example, and the reason Christina keeps saying, let some data collect, is that you could define a lead scoring model or persona at a later point in time. Let the traffic roll for some particular period of time, 3 weeks. Then generate your personas off of interactions, as we often refer to them as, the activities that users are completing, visitors, whatever you're calling them. And those reports will generate retroactively. You can then obviously use that from that point going on to, again, identify these groups, use them in personalization models. Same happens if you add a new rule. It will be retroactively calculated at the calculation time, which is usually in the middle of the night. But
Yeah.
so that's kind of a cool couple features. Yeah, you can let the data go. You can collect data from other platforms and do those types of things and retroactively generate these types of reporting features. And they're not just limited to reporting. They do offer great visuals, but again, are great for that personalization model. If you're in the middle of the stage, and I'm stealing all of Christina's funness, if you're in the middle stage, whatever, you're kind of teetering on the edge of completionness of the major activity, change the content, get them driven towards the activity that you'd like them to complete.
Yeah. And that's a really important point too, because as we all know, Google Analytics is not retroactive. So if we set up a goal today, we're only collecting from here on out. So that's another really key piece to insight that leads the competitor for sure. Segment discovery, I'm going to speed up a little bit because I want to make sure that Jonathan has time for his demo. Segment discovery is a great piece of the tool that will help you understand, what are people interested in? Are there additional segments that you might want to look to personalize for? So for instance, titles of visited pages can give us an indication of where people spend their time. The category tags can give us an indication of their interest level. Like, so for instance, here we see retirees really jumping out at us. Maybe we need some additional retiree content and we can target them with something like a high yield savings account or something like that. That can give us a great indication for additional segments we might want to personalize for. How do we evaluate this? So technically, there's a lot of different ways we can evaluate personalization and how our strategy is performing. We will want to evaluate it on a consistent basis. This is not a set it and forget it type thing. Does that mean you have to look at it every day? Absolutely not. I would never recommend that. I would say, when we're starting out, we'd probably want to look at it monthly and just kind of see how things are performing. And then once we get things really dialed in well, we could probably maybe switch to like a quarterly type review period. We'd want to look at things like the number of contacts, how many people are we catching with that rule scoring that we put in place. We'd want to reevaluate the rules based on that. Do we need to make them a little tighter? Maybe we need to loosen them up a little bit. Maybe we see a lot of data on different touch points that show us more interest that we didn't know about when we first set them up. So that's the type of optimization we would start to look at. We'd want to look at those conversions and the conversion rate. How are those performing? Are we able to maybe choose a more specific conversion that we want to track to? We would want to take a look at the pages visited. What's performing well on the site? Where are people spending their time? And then how can we fold that in to our personalization strategy to better serve that content to our users? All right, sounds great. We love Insight so far. It's awesome. How easy is it to use? Jonathan, you going to tell us?
How about I show you one better?
Oh,
I mean,
love
I can talk and, it could be interesting, but how about we kind of, put our money where our mouth is, so to speak. So let me click a couple screens here. And we're going to start out with a site called Coriander Lane Financial Services. A very simplistic site, just kind of identifying, some activities that might be completed in here. Now, you talked a lot about and showed a lot of rules building. And where does all this data come from? One of the most beneficial things about using it in conjunction with Sitefinity is that we track a ton of interactions out of the box. And these interactions are the basis for a lot of things like personification, lead score modeling, conversion building, and touch point generation, right? Interactions are the activities that a user is doing, but you're not just limited to what we do just out of the box. We have Google Tag Manager, so you could, one, put it on other platforms to keep a journey across many different, secured portals that maybe you don't have direct access to, a current site that you might be transitioning to a new site, lots of opportunities there. So you might want to track those custom calculators or other activities that you might be doing. Once Sitefinity knows about those interactions, or Sitefinity Insight to be more specific, it's then you can start personifying. So we'll look at a little bit of data here. These are just some real-time charts and graphs, but what we can kind of start with here is personification. Now, one thing we didn't really mention a whole lot as we define a new persona here, fun persona. These people are the funnest. You'll give them some distinctive characteristics, a photo, and then that number. Christina likes 50. I like 100. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. Again, you can pick whatever you want, as long as the point values add up to at least that at some particular point in time. They are fun. Okay, so a couple required fields there. We save the persona. At this point, keep in mind, this has been collecting data for some period of time, so we could add a rule. We can define the rules here. Not only can we do it by behavior, which again, as noted, a lot come out of the box with Sitefinity, and here's all the things that we're doing out of the box. These are all interactions, right? And then these are some custom interactions that I might have facilitated on my own, right? Vimeo video tracking, which is carousel click. So we have a rotating banner graphic, which you briefly saw when I showed the front end. Whatever it is, the activity that you wanted to do, maybe it's UTM campaign parameters. Again, a very similar, let me pause, a very common way to track, obviously, performance of activities through Google, right? So you can use these to build your persona out, or you can use it by contact property. Contact properties might be built with integrations. They might be collected in a form submission. So you can use a combination of these two things to define personas. Not only that, you could also use it in a couple different areas of Sitefinity Insight. So defining personas is very straightforward. As a more advanced mode, things like lead scoring here. So this one is about, filling out an application for some type of franchising process or loan. So you can see stages of people in certain thresholds. This one here, this potential one, is one that we're often targeting or doing multi-tiered targeting, where if they're in this stage versus this stage, again, we collectively change the content and information. And then here's a collection of rules. We do have things like every time or single time rules, and you can, again, do positive or negative points, or even reset a persona or lead scoring model to 0 at any point in time. Conversion reports, you saw some great screenshots of those. Once you've defined this, one of the other beauties of Sitefinity Insight is not only can you use this in Sitefinity, you could use it again in other applications to, again, personalize an experience. You could actually request to say, is a user in a persona or lead scoring model, change a mobile application, or whatever type of complex structure you'd like to define. And then lastly, the journey analysis about a particular user can be quite fun as well. So here was a user I was looking at the other day. They've crossed the threshold. They've given us their email. Here's all the interactions they've done, 32. First was yesterday, became a contact yesterday, and their last interaction was also yesterday. So basically in one day, I've collected their contact information, which means their email in most cases. So a lot of times that's a pat on the back in a marketing perspective. If I got their information in one day, depending on what form they might have filled out, maybe it wasn't, so you have some things to sort of evaluate in there. Which conversions they've completed, touch points that they've hit. Now, touch points, again, are just interactions that could or do lead to conversions. And here's the fun parts, right? Here's all the activities that they've done throughout their interactions with their website. I have users on here who've been interacting for years, and we can actually see all of it. It does start to break it down into months and in buckets like that. You can see when they scored points towards different values. They went to 3 different pages here. Finally, down here, they completed a conversion. And at that point, we could then look at the more specific conversion report. And again, start to formulate and do ideas from there. So now that I've shown you all that in sort of real time, once you've defined things like persona building or lead scoring, you can go into the Sitefinity backend and you can define a personalization segment. So you can see here, I have one that is using a UTM campaign parameter. In fact, we're going to do something very similar right now. So maybe we've done an email campaign management through your marketing automation tools like Marketo, Eloqua, Pardot, marketing, whatever marketing automation tool. Chances are you probably supplied UTM campaign parameters. So this is going to be about like a fall mortgage or something like that. So fall mortgage. I never spelled this right. This is why I don't work in banking. One time I'll get it right here. And then we'll say something like UTM campaign, okay? And then we're going to define those characteristics. Everything I'm showing here comes out of the box with Sitefinity. In fact, we can do and or logic of combinations of these types of rules. So that data could be location. So maybe you only serve a certain set of target audiences. Maybe it's in a state, a city, a province. As you might notice, I'm calling from a dungeon. It's a little town in Angola, Indiana. If you're familiar with Angola, New York, it's not there. Nor is it the country. But here you can see this tiny little town of 10,000 people is on this GeoIP database list. So you can personalize, you can say is or is not, and do all sorts of combinations of things. Things within the session, landing URL, referral URLs, pages that they visited. What we're going to use is query parameter, mobile versus desktop, if they're logging in, and then all sorts of the fun goodies from Sitefinity Insight itself. Now, the persona, oftentimes visitors, users of similar interests, like or thoughts. And again, data can come from a multitude of different places. So that's why it's kind of in its own separation of information. You can use contact properties from there, again, if you're using it as kind of like a customer data platform scenario. And this one's kind of fun too. If you know they've completed a conversion, i.e. filled out some type of application or done the mortgage calculator, you could actually did they do that conversion within the last 30 days? If so, change the user experience, right? So franchise application, did you do it in the last 7, 30, 6 months? Again, really keep those visitors targeted in on an operation that you'd like them to complete. Now, we've talked a lot about, driving them to business goals, but you could also help aid them in, just retrieving content. Things like tags and categories as well. You've identified interest in topics, promote that information up to the top of the list, that type of
Yeah,
situation.
that's such a great point because, if you think through like some of our use cases, we work with a lot of higher ed clients. So, say you set that conversion as signing up for an on-site tour. And once they've completed that, they come back to the website. We can personalize for everyone who's completed the tour. What was your favorite part of the tour? Click here to apply now. Here's a code. So when you submit your application, you can save on the application fee. That's the type of personalized content that can really push them towards a conversion.
Yeah, absolutely. Or maybe you've identified, again, in higher education that they're a parent versus a student, again, offering them information, fill out the FAFSA, or for a student to fill out FAFSA, or whatever, again, the scenario might be. One of the great things about Sitefinity Insight is that we do track content that is tagged and categorized. So not only is tags and categories beneficial from maybe an authoring perspective, how many mortgage articles do I have, right? Also could be used on the front end to help filter content and information. But we use it so you can personify or lead score or even touch point measure particular visitors. So during that little quick talk there, I just saved my personalization rule. UTM campaign parameter is fall mortgage. Again, this is some email campaign that we're promoting something going on in the fall due to mortgages, right? This isn't going to be an exhaustive Sitefinity demonstration, but this is quickly going to show a page, which you saw the front end of. I already have the content. So that's one beneficial thing about this process too is, again, don't overcomplicate it. You probably already have the content that you need to create a personalized experience. So in this particular case, I already have this content for mortgage, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add personalized version. I'm going to select the particular segment I want to identify with, and then I can actually modify the configuration of this particular widget. So in my case, this is, again, just a rotating banner graphic on the homepage. Almost all of us have one, right? In this case, if they've come in, so basically we have a link at the bottom of our emails that maybe people don't commonly use, but occasionally do, has that UTM parameter in it. We're going to only show them the mortgage slide, right? Again, not an exhaustive demonstration here. We're going to go ahead and save that. Now at the top here, we can see the page has been personalized. We can even preview The page personalization. So again, as a author, editor, designer, content author, I can get, again, is my experience what I expected by stepping through the different segments that I may have placed on this particular page. Not to mention that we also track personalization. So you can actually attribute this back to conversions or other aspects of the system. That's taking a second to load. We're just going to go run it live here in a second. So I'll just go ahead and publish the page. So now we've offered that personalized version and experience. So what we'll do now is I'm going to open up an incognito window. And again, I'm just going to paste in a URL that identifies that I am coming in from a fall mortgage. Now, as you can see here, one banner graphic here versus if I go to the other, or actually if I remove this for that matter, if I remove this, you'll see I get the 3 rotating banner graphics. But if I, of course, go back here, we got the one single environment. This might drill them into, hopefully more specifically, probably some type of application form, contact us, set your time with your banker, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So the idea in this particular case is we are driving a key performance indicator. And again, most likely form submissions, but these conversions can be defined upon anything, interaction with that calculator or whatever it is you want. Some of the other kind of cool things, I know we showed you a quick selection there, but news. We talked about tagging and categorizing. So maybe, again, the same group of individuals. We'll go ahead and create another targeted segment here, but we might then filter this content or information by tag. I don't have any by mortgage, I don't believe, but just for giggles here, we'll just say gift card, and it's just the tag that I have there. So maybe for whatever reason, this group is, also interested in gift cards. So we're going to filter the content to be very explicit towards their particular offer and interest here. And I know just coming up with 2 or 3 minutes left here. I know that was pretty quick, but again, you'll be able to enjoy this over your Sunday coffee, as Christina said. But really the idea there is just to really show, 1, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You probably have the content and information that you already need. 2, you get to reuse the tools and experiences that you're already used to within the content management system Sitefinity and just apply the particular personas you are. And lastly, I love to remind people to just keep it simple. Okay, we in our minds will oftentimes create the most complicated scenario that we could think of to try to target and do. Find a small piece of content, one page, homepage, oftentimes the most easiest. Pick an indicator, run it for a particular time, evaluate it, repeat the process, right? And that's again where Christina and her team really come into play to help.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's so important that we start small and really understand how things are performing and being open to others and, understanding, what we can do more and what we need to tweak to make it work better. So that's, yeah, really great stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and reshare here so that we can talk through our last little bit. Okay. So let's talk through just on the last kind of bit. I'm just going to actually stick with this here. What does an engagement with SilverTech look like? We really look through that crawl, walk, run approach, like Jonathan talked about. Understanding, starting small. Where can we start? How can we start to collect that data? How can we help you analyze it and get the insight out of it? We'll work with you to understand what are your target audiences, where are you looking to go, what are some business goals. You may say like, we have so many goals, we don't know which one to focus on. So we can help you sift through some of that as well to understand how that will play. We'll also start to look at that strategy and recommendation piece. We can guide you through how to create that scoring strategy that's going to work for you and creating those custom content areas that can help you as well. We'll also talk through implementing that strategy. We can help you implement it in the back end, as Jonathan just showed us. It's really quite user-friendly, which is one of the things I love about it. But maybe you just don't have the resources. You just don't have the time. You'd much rather just have me do it and be done with it. Happy to do it for you. Our team is really well-versed in Insight, so we're happy to implement that as well. And then additionally, what we do is we stick with you. We don't leave you after that. It's not like, here it is, okay, see you later. No, what we're going to do is we're going to stick with you. We're going to do those review sessions with you so that you can see the types of data that we're pulling out and how we're pulling the insight out of that data and what does that mean for us as a marketing team. Does that mean we need to create more content? Does that mean we need to promote this page over that page? Do we need a digital campaign, maybe a digital marketing campaign to drive more traffic to this page? Those are the kinds of things that we will help you understand and help you parse through so that we can work together to make sure that your efforts are, being really fully realized and you're getting the most out of your content and your personalization investment. So again, successful personalization, strategy, implementation, and then reviewing and refining. It's really important that we continue to do that on an ongoing basis. And we're here for you to help you through that process. Awesome. All right, so I think we're going to wrap it up there because we've already gone a little bit over time, but thanks everyone for your patience at the beginning. And if you have any further questions, definitely drop me an email and check out our white paper, Pitfalls to Personalization. Really helpful info in there that I think that you'll like. You'll be able to kind of mull over. And again, the recording will be available for you to download and watch anytime you want, but would love to hear your feedback on this presentation and maybe some additional topics that you might want to hear. So definitely drop me a note. Let me know what you thought. Jonathan, thanks for joining. It's always a good time with you. So hope you have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thanks so much for joining.